She was left in the snow with her children until a cowboy whispered, "You're safe now." The snow hit like a slap, sharp, blinding, merciless. Grace Morrison tightened her grip on her daughter's hands as the stagecoach rattled away, leaving them in the frozen mud of Silverton with nothing but a battered trunk, a telegram, and a truth she didn't want to face. No one wanted a widow who owned a silver mine. Men stepped around her like she was invisible. The hotel clerk laughed in her face. The assayer slammed his door shut. Even the sheriff, a man sworn to serve, pretended not to hear her. The wind knifed through her Boston coat. 8-year-old Lily's lips were turning blue. Emma's little fingers went numb inside her mother's glove. Grace held them close, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Then a stranger stumbled past, coat torn, boots cracked, reeking of whiskey and despair. A man everyone else avoided. He paused, turned, looked at Grace's shivering daughters, and something changed in his eyes. He leaned close, voice low, rough as gravel, and said 5 words that would alter the course of their lives. "You'll die up there alone. And then, come with me. You're safe now." Everything that followed, the mine, the danger, the betrayal, the war, began with that whisper. The trail narrowed as the last light slid behind the peaks. Flint walked ahead of the mare, boots crunching through crusted snow, lamp swinging in his hand. Grace watched the way he moved, slow, deliberate, like a man who'd memorized the mountain's moods. "You said you knew my husband," Grace called softly. Flint didn't look back. Knew of him. A beat. Most men up here did. Grace waited for him to continue, but he didn't. He only kept walking, breath misting in the cold air. The mule stumbled over a buried rock. Grace steadied Emma with one hand, tightened her grip on the lead rope with the other. The cold had teeth now, sinking into their coats, gnawing at their fingers. "How much farther?" Grace asked. "Close." But Flint's voice dipped in a way that made her stomach twist. Another 50 yards, and Flint stopped abruptly. He raised the lantern. Grace saw it then, a rough timber frame, half swallowed by darkness. A cabin, small, weathered, lonely, smoke-stained from years of fires. Behind it, the mine entrance gaped like a wound in the mountain. Flint exhaled hard. "Your husband built this," he muttered. "I didn't think it would still be standing." He swung open the cabin door. One room, a rope bed, a pot-belly stove, a table built from scrapboards, bare shelves, dust, cold, but it was shelter. And right now, that felt like a miracle. Flint set down the lamp and went straight to the stove. He stacked wood with practiced movements, struck a match, lit the fire on the first try. Grace realized he wasn't drunk. Not anymore. Not tonight. "You and the girls sleep here," he said. "I'll stay outside." Grace frowned. "In the cold. I've slept in worse." A tired smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "And besides, I don't stay in places with children." The way he said it made Grace's chest tighten. There was a story behind that. A painful one. But she didn't ask. Not yet. Instead, she wrapped Emma in a blanket, guided Lily toward the bed, and watched Flint step out into the dark alone. The fire crackled quietly. The girls drifted asleep. Grace knelt beside the stove, warming her hands, staring at the closed door, and wondering what kind of man would freeze outside to keep strangers safe. A good man? A dangerous one? Or someone who no longer believed he deserved warmth? She didn't know, but she feared she was going to find out. Grace barely slept. Every groan of the cabin timbers, every gust of wind, every tiny shift in the girl's breathing, her eyes snapped open, waiting for danger, waiting for him. Before dawn, she rose quietly, stoked the fire, and cracked the cabin door open. Cold slapped her face. A thin crust of frost glittered over the clearing. Flint sat by the creek, knees pulled up, coat drawn tight. He hadn't slept, not even for a moment. Instead, he stared at the mountains like they were ghosts he couldn't stop seeing. Grace stepped outside. "You'll die sleeping out here." He didn't look at her. "Didn't sleep. You need rest." "I need a clear head more." Grace studied him, really studied him. In the dim blue light of early morning, he looked older than last night, sharper around the edges, hollowed out, but his hand shook just a tremor but constant. He was fighting something inside himself, something he didn't want her to see. She set a tin cup beside him. Coffee. He hesitated, then took it. His fingers wrapped around the cup like he needed the heat to remind himself he was still alive. How long since you've eaten? Grace asked. Flint huffed, a humorless laugh. 4 days? 5? Hell, if I remember. That's not sustainable. I'm not trying to be sustainable. Silence hung between them. Heavy. Unspoken truths gathering like storm clouds. Finally, Flint said quietly, your husband was smart. Smarter than the men hired to take what he found. Grace went still. You knew he was in danger. Everyone did, Flint said, voice low. Consolidated doesn't like independent claims. The moment he struck a real vein, they marked him. Grace's breath stuttered. You're saying they killed him. I'm saying they didn't mind watching him die. Grace looked toward the cabin where her daughter slept. Her throat tightened. Her vision blurred. But she forced the words out. If the mind is real. I need to know. Flint stood slowly, joints popping, exhaustion written in every movement. He grabbed the lamp from the stump beside him. Then I'll check the entrance, he said. And if it's safe, I'll take you inside. Grace swallowed hard. You don't have to, yes, Flint said sharply, cutting her off. I do. For a moment, she saw him clearly, beyond the unshaven face, beyond the whiskey breath, beyond the tremor in his hands. A man who'd failed someone once, and refused to fail again. He walked toward the mine entrance, lamps swinging at his side. Grace followed. The world was still dark, the air freezing, her heart hammering. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever they found inside that mine would change everything. The mine mouth yawned like a dark throat in the mountain. Timber beams framed the entrance, weathered but solid. Flint raised the lamp, its flame flickering gold against damp stone. He exhaled long and controlled. Your husband built this, right? He murmured. Grace stepped beside him, her breath turning white. What does that mean? It means he cared about living long enough to bring his silver home. He tapped a beam. Good joinery. No shortcuts. It's honest work. The word surprised her. Coming from a man like Flint, scarred, exhausted, still trembling, they carried weight. He stepped inside. Grace hesitated at the threshold. The girls watched from the cabin door, bundled in blankets, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. She touched her heart twice, a silent promise to them, then followed Flint into the dark. Inside, the air changed. Cooler. Still. Heavy with minerals and something metallic, like the breath of the earth itself. Water dripped somewhere deep. Every sound echoed. Flint lifted the lamp higher. The tunnel stretched ahead, narrow and braced with timber. Their shadows shifted across the walls, tall and ghostly. Stay close, he said. I am. He kept one hand on the wall, feeling the wood, the grain, the moisture. Every few steps he paused, listening, reading the mountain. Grace watched him with growing respect and a creeping fear she didn't want to name. Flint Garrett was a man who knew danger better than safety, and he walked this shaft like it was both. After 30 feet, he stopped abruptly. Look, Grace stepped forward. Light brushed across the tunnel wall, catching something that shimmered like frost. Her breath caught. Is that silver? Flint said quietly. High-grade ore. She touched the vein with trembling fingers. It glimmered beneath her skin. Real. Cold. Undeniable. Her husband hadn't been chasing a dream. He found it. How much? Grace whispered. Flint ran his hand along the wall. Slowly, reverently. A fortune, he said. If the vein runs deep, maybe 50,000. Maybe more. Enough to change everything. Grace staggered back, dizzy. Then why didn't he? He didn't get the chance. Flint's voice was gentle now, stripped of bitterness. He held the lamp close so she could see clearly. Grace, your husband wasn't a fool. He struck silver. The real kind. The kind men kill for. She swallowed. Hard. And now they'll come for it. Yes, Flint said. No hesitation. Consolidated will come hard. First with offers. Then with lawyers. Then, he stopped himself. Grace finished the sentence anyway. Then with bullets. The lamp flame wavered, as if even it feared the truth. Grace pressed a hand to her trembling chest. "For my daughters," she whispered. "This mine has to survive. I have to survive." Flint looked at her for a long moment. Lamplight catching the pain in his eyes, the guilt, the history he carried like a chain. "You won't survive it alone." And for the first time since arriving on this mountain, she wasn't running. Winter settled over Anvil Ridge like a warning. Nights were colder, shadows longer, and the silence around the cabin felt sharp, like it was listening. Grace felt it in her bones. Something was coming, and it arrived on the 8th morning. 3 riders moving through the timber with the confidence of men who had nothing to fear and everything to take. Grace was washing clothes in the creek. Her arms were numb from the icy water. Her mind was spinning with numbers. Firewood, flour, lamp oil, the small pile of silver pieces left in her corset. Then she heard hooves. She stood slowly, dripping water, heart beating too fast. The horses stopped 10 yards away. 3 men, clean coats, expensive boots, eyes like predators. The one in front dismounted with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Mrs. Hale, I presume." Grace didn't answer. She didn't have to. He already knew. "My name is Andrew Sutton," he said, removing his gloves with calm civility. "I run Consolidated Silver." Her stomach dropped. This was the man Flint warned her about. The man who bought judges, bought men, bought death. Sutton glanced at the mine, then the cabin, then at Grace, really looked at her. "You're living hard," he said lightly. "Worse than you need to. What do you want?" "A conversation," he said, stepping closer, "about opportunities and consequences." Grace's hand tightened on the washtub. Sutton smiled at that. "I won't waste your time," he continued. "Your husband's claim is promising, far more than we initially believed. And now that you've established residency, I'd like to buy you out. Cleanly. It's not for sale." He blinked once. Slow. Measuring. "Mrs. Hale, silver mining is dangerous. Claims like this kill people. They swallow all you have, then take the rest. A woman alone. I'm not alone." He smirked. "The engineer? Mr. Garrett?" "Dear lady. He's the reason 12 men are in the ground." Grace stiffened. He noticed. "That's right. You didn't know?" The shaft collapse, his calculations, his negligence, his guilt. Grace shook her head. "No. He told me what happened." "Did he tell you he signed the plans?" Sutton asked softly. "Did he tell you he walked away unharmed while his own brother suffocated under rock?" Grace's throat tightened. Sutton leaned closer. "You're trusting a broken man who kills everything he touches." Grace forced herself not to step back. "My husband believed in this mine," she said. "I'm finishing what he started." Sutton's eyes hardened. "We offered him partnership," he said. "He refused. And look where that got him." Grace felt her knees weaken. "Are you admitting?" "I'm admitting nothing," Sutton said calmly. "I'm offering you a lifeline. $5,000. Enough to get you and your girls back to civilization." He pulled out a folded document. "Take it. Sign. Survive." Grace didn't look at it. "I said no." Sutton exhaled, long and disappointed. Then he nodded once. His 2 men shifted their coats, revealing rifles. Grace swallowed, pulse hammering. Sutton's voice softened. "Mrs. Hale, this mountain is dangerous. People vanish up here. Cabins catch fire. Sudden storms. Wild animals. Accidents." Grace's blood turned to ice. "Are you threatening my daughters?" Sutton smiled gently. "I'm reminding you that children are fragile. Life is fragile. And you are very, very alone." "No," a voice said behind them. "She isn't." The 3 men turned. Flint stood at the mine entrance, lamp in one hand, rifle in the other. His face was drawn. His eyes were bloodshot, but his hands were steady. Sutton's smile vanished. "Garrett," he said coldly, "still playing hero for lost causes." Flint didn't move. "You're trespassing." "I don't take orders from the man who killed my brother," Flint replied, voice rough. One of Sutton's men lifted his rifle. Grace's heart lurched, but Flint didn't blink. "And if you think you're touching her daughters," Flint growled, "you'll need every gravedigger in Silverton before sunset." Silence. Cold. Sharp. Dangerous. Sutton studied Flint for a long moment. then turned back to Grace. 48 hours, he said softly. Then the offer expires. After that, no one will be able to help you. He mounted his horse. Enjoy the time you have left, Mrs. Hay, by showing the law it's profitable and active. He met her eyes. And tomorrow morning, we go inside. Deep. Grace felt her pulse skitter. You said it wasn't safe. It isn't, Flint said. But neither is waiting. The creek murmured behind them. Snow drifted silently from the branches overhead. Somewhere far below, a wolf howled. Grace wiped her wet hands on her skirt, shaking with fear and fury. Then we go, she whispered. Flint nodded once. Sunrise. He turned toward the mine entrance, toward the dark that waited to swallow them. Grace looked up at the mountains, cold and merciless, then toward the cabin where her daughters slept. I'll keep you safe, she whispered. I swear it. But even as she said it, she knew something terrible. Sutton had given her 48 hours, and some battles couldn't be won in time. Dawn came gray and brittle, like the sky itself feared what waited beneath the snow. Grace barely slept. Every creak of the cabin made her grip the rifle tighter. Every gust of wind sounded like hooves. But when she stepped outside, the world was still. Still and waiting. Flint was already by the mine entrance, lantern lit, rope over his shoulder. This is your last chance to stay topside, he said. I'm going. He nodded once. Not arguing. Not trying to protect her with lies. Just accepting the truth. They were past safety. The ladder down into the shaft was slick with frost. Dark. Cold as a tomb. Grace climbed behind Flint, hands trembling, breath fogging in front of her. Somewhere above, the girls watched from the doorway. Two small silhouettes against the morning light. 50 feet down, the tunnel opened. Flint lifted the lantern. The wall sparked. Silver. Thick. Real. Grace exhaled a shaking breath. My God. Flint touched the rock with his fingertips, like he was afraid it would vanish. He was right, Flint whispered. Your husband wasn't chasing ghosts. Grace bowed her head. For the first time in months, she let herself cry. Quiet, grateful tears that warmed her cheeks in the frozen dark. Then footsteps echoed from behind. Grace froze. Flint lifted the lantern higher. Miguel stepped into the tunnel. Senora, he said, breathless, we have trouble. Back outside, the ridge was crawling with men. Not 3, not 5, 10, maybe more. Riders, guns, cold faces, paid killers. Sutton's final answer. Miguel swallowed hard. They're coming to take the claim. By force. Grace's heart clenched. Where are my daughters? Hiding in the timber, just like you taught them. Good girls. Smart girls. Flint lifted his rifle. We can hold them off. No, Miguel warned. They came ready. Too many guns. Too much firepower. Grace looked at the men on the ridge. At the rifles glinting with frost. At the cabin she'd rebuilt with bleeding hands. At the mountains that seemed to lean closer, as if listening. Her voice came out steady. They want me. Not the mine. Flint turned sharply. Don't say that. It's true. Doesn't matter. Grace's hands were shaking, but her spine felt like iron. If they take me, the girls live. If they take you, Flint snapped, they kill you. Then they burn the mine. Then they hunt the girls anyway. That's how Sutton operates. Grace's breath caught. She knew he was right. She knew they had no choices left. Then movement in the trees caught her eye. The girls. Small shapes running toward them. Emma. Lily, stay back. Too late. Lily burst into the clearing, eyes wide with fear. Mama. They're coming around the back. Gunfire cracked. Snow exploded at Emma's feet. Grace grabbed her, shielding her with her body. Flint fired back, dropping one of the riders. Miguel grabbed Lily and pulled her behind the boulder by the cabin. Bullets tore into the cabin walls. Glass shattered. Timbers splintered. Grace crouched low, heart slamming against her ribs. Flint, they'll overrun us. Not if we move, he said. Back into the mine. Grace hesitated only once. Then she ran, dragging Emma by the hand, clutching Lily's coat, racing toward the mouth of the mine as gunfire thundered behind them. Inside, the dark felt safer than daylight. Barely. Flint kicked over a crate, shoved tools and canteens into Grace's arms. They won't follow us blind, he said. We have a few minutes. Emma sobbed. Lily held her tight. Grace knelt, cupped their faces. Listen to me. Whatever happens, stay behind me. Don't run unless I tell you. Mama, are we going to die? Emma whimpered. No, Grace whispered, pressing her forehead to hers. We're going to live. Do you hear me? We're going to live. Then boots pounded outside. We need to go deeper, Flint urged. Past the water turn. It's narrow. They'll have to come one at a time. Miguel nodded. See, we make a choke point. Grace followed Flint deeper into the mountain, lantern light bouncing wildly across timber and rock. The tunnel tightened. Damp air thickened. The smell of minerals and cold earth pressed in. Then, a roar. Not gunfire. A cave-in. Snow. Rock. Grace didn't know. But when she spun, the entrance behind them was gone. Buried. Emma screamed. Lily started crying. Grace's chest seized. No, no, no. Flint, tell me there's another way out. There is. He met her eyes. But it's farther in. How far? Far. She swallowed. How risky? His look told her everything. Too risky. But staying meant death. Lead the way, she said. They moved through the dark, lantern trembling in Flint's hand. Behind them, the killers were shouting, digging, cursing. They'd break through the collapsed entrance soon. The girls clung to Grace's coat. Miguel's breath came ragged. Flint paused at a fork in the tunnel. Left is safer, he whispered. Right is faster. Grace didn't hesitate. Right. They hurried on. The tunnel sloped downward. The air grew colder. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow, steady taps. A narrow crossing appeared ahead. A plank bridge over a flooded drift. Flint stepped onto it first. It groaned. Mama, Lily whispered, voice thin. I'm scared. So am I, Grace said softly. But fear keeps us careful. Then a gunshot echoed through the tunnel. Shouts. Voices. Closer. Miguel turned pale. They broke through. Flint motioned sharply. Cross now. They rushed across the plank. Grace carrying Emma. Lily gripping her sleeve, Miguel bringing up the rear. Another shot rang out. Stone chipped beside Grace's head. They were close. Too close. Flint smashed the plank with his pickaxe. The bridge split. Fell. Vanished into the dark water below. A narrow escape. But escape all the same. Grace exhaled shakily. What now? Flint pointed ahead. A ventilation shaft. Old ladder. It comes out near the upper ridge. Can the girls climb it? They'll have to. They ran again, until the tunnel opened into a tall cavern where a wooden ladder rose into blackness. Go, Flint urged. I'll cover you. Grace put Lily on the first rung. Then Emma. Then she started to climb. Flint and Miguel fired behind them, shots echoing like thunder in the stone chamber. Grace climbed faster. Keep going, she shouted. Above, a faint circle of daylight appeared. Hope. She pushed the girls upward, breath burning in her lungs. Then, a scream. Miguel. Gunshot. Then silence. Grace's stomach lurched. Flint. Keep climbing, he yelled. She did. Lily reached the top. Emma next. Grace pulled herself out and turned back just as Flint climbed through, blood on his sleeve, face ashen. They collapsed in the snow together, gasping, shaking. The mine behind them rumbled, then settled. Grace grabbed Flint's face in both hands. You're hurt. I'm alive, he rasped. You and the girls, that's all that matters. Grace pulled him into a fierce embrace, the girls piling into them both, sobbing into his coat. Below them, the mountain was quiet again. The men chasing them were gone, buried, drowned, or turned back. Grace would never know, but she didn't have to. They'd survived. Finally, they'd survived. Grace kissed her daughter's heads, then leaned her forehead against Flint's. We're going home, she whispered. Yeah, he breathed. We are. Grace Hale had come to Silverton with 2 starving girls and a telegram nobody believed. She'd been laughed at, denied, threatened, hunted, but she lived. Her daughters lived. Her husband's mind lived. And so would she. Whatever the future demanded, whatever the mountain asked of her, she'd face it. With the same fire that kept her walking through snow. With the same courage that made a broken man choose to fight beside her. And with a promise whispered into the cold morning air, we are not done. Not yet. Not ever. If you felt this tale in your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wild West Emotional Tales, where every story rides through the dust, the danger, and the kind of love that never dies. See you in the next tale, partner.